OMG, baby, tell him.
Hey there, welcome to Powered by Backers. Yet another day, yet another amazing guest. I am joined here by Scott Hutchings. Scott, thank you very much for joining me this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I'll do a quick little bio. Obviously, got a lot of cool things to talk about. But you are the founder and president of Global Coin Solutions. In a nutshell, I say you solve problems one coin at a time. So we'll talk a little bit about what Global Coin Solutions is. But you are you're working with we've worked with March of Dimes in the past. So I've got my 3HL hoodie.
Yep.
We did some stuff with March of Dimes in the past. So kind of ironic. I just dropped my kids off first day of school, so it was a little chilly out. So I put on the hoodie for the first time in I think 3 months. But why don't we jump into tell us what Global Coin Solutions is? And I love how you've got the promo on the screen. You've done this once or twice before. Tell us what you're up to then, Scott.
Okay. So in a nutshell, I mean, you mentioned it there. We solve problems one coin at a time. What we do is we enable charities, and it's not just charities, but it's anyone who wants to support charities to collect donations in any currency.
Right.
So, think of things like a penny drive, or a food drive, or a toy drive, or any kind of drive. They're exactly the same. It's just the commodity itself is different.
Right.
I've had conversations with organizations that have done penny drives in the past, and their response was, yeah, you know what, we raised a lot of money, but we had a lot of administration of that program. Right. And it cost us more than we raised. Well, with a foreign currency drive, and it doesn't need to be a drive. It can be an ongoing collection program.
Okay.
But looking at a drive situation, for example, with us, we take care of most of the heavy lifting. Okay. So if you've got, and the situation that I've got historically, we weren't involved. We had nothing to do with what was going on with the penny drive. But there was a local office of a national charity that was doing a penny drive in Mississauga. Okay. They raised $25,000. The comment that I had back was that it cost them $40,000 to administer that. Okay. Now, $25,000 is nothing to sneeze at by any stretch of the imagination. Right. What most people don't realize is that $25,000 in pennies weighs about 7 tons. So
So you're gonna need a few forklifts to get it around, or a dump truck, right?
You're gonna need a lot of things because banks want pennies rolled,
right?
And so on, and there's no question, it's a lot of work, right?
So just to go back here, so just so I got numbers, so they raised 25. What was the cost? Did you say it cost them to manage it? 40,000.
He said he paid 40,000. He paid an employee $40,000 to manage it, right? So
that's just the employee, or that's, I guess, all of it.
Well, he said employee. He just said employee. So I don't know if that employee was going around and picking up all the pennies and rolling them and doing all that stuff.
Right.
I'm not sure. I don't have all the details.
Right.
But why it was a successful program was that this organization connected with local businesses.
Right.
And the articles that I read that followed this collection program, and it was a short-term thing, was that these organizations were looking for a continuation or some sort of continuing collection program,
an ongoing solution
to support this charity.
Right.
Now, with us, had we been involved, and if somebody went ahead and did this on their own right now, what we would put in place for them would be, you tell us who your collection partners are, we'll go around and we'll pick the stuff up from all the different locations, so you don't have to manage that anymore. We will bring everything back to our office and do what we do, which is separating all the different currencies.
Right.
So your administration cost just went to virtually zero. You know,
Right.
you've got somebody who's got to run around and make the connections with those local small businesses and make sure that everything is working properly. And absolutely, you want to be in their face, that you want them to know that you are there and you're thankful for what they're doing.
Right.
You need to promote it. But with social media these days, promotion becomes less cumbersome from a financial perspective than it did in the past.
Right.
You don't need to take ads out in the local newspaper to make something, to make people aware.
Right.
You can do it on your social media,
on your Facebook page. Yeah.
Engage your supporters, the other small businesses. Get them to talk about it. You talk about it about them. You drive donors into their businesses, and of course, you look at these days, and that's the biggest struggle that small businesses are having right now is
getting foot
traffic.
Yeah, for sure.
So if and I will go back and I'll point specifically at March of Dimes Canada. So they had a network of currency exchanges that they were working with. And with the promotion that they were doing, with the links on their website, the locations being posted, people were going into these currency exchanges who were not looking to be a client of the currency exchange, but simply wanted to make a donation. And it then opens the door for the currency exchange to have the opportunity to turn that person into a client.
Of course, yeah.
Right. But people were going out of their way to drop in and drop off their foreign currency.
So that's interesting. Let's sort of pull back here. I was on your website when we first connected. So I think that's a really cool aspect. Is it's not just Canadian pennies. We're talking about global currencies. So one of the things on your website that you talk about is, if you're traveling, you come back, the likelihood of you going maybe to that country again, is probably lower than, I don't know the average, but talking about that, now you've got this surplus currency. This is a great way to take that and donate it to a charity of your choice, or in this case, March of Dimes. So tell us a little bit about how you guys facilitate the sorting. And I mean, I'd be interested to understand, just from your perspective. I mean, we talk about how businesses work and how things work on this show, or at least we try to. Obviously, there's a cost to the company when they're collecting the coins. How do you decrease or significantly decrease the cost internally for yourself, so that what maybe was taking them $40,000 for one employee, like how are you able to make it a viable business transaction as well? Those are probably two things that I was really kind of keen to hear. That obviously the international currency exchange, and then obviously the how your logistics significantly reduce costs, or how you're able to do that.
Yeah. So what it comes down to is everything we do is manual.
Okay.
That's full stop. There's no machinery out there that can sort the number of different currencies that we get.
Okay. It's funny. I remember I had this idea about 30 years ago, probably. And then I saw in like Loblaws or like places, they had that, dump your coins in and get like a coupon out or whatever.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
so but that would be just Canadian currency, let's say, right?
Correct.
So it wouldn't know what to do with a peso or obviously American quarter would probably, slide through the cracks, but some of the other, like a euro, they wouldn't know. No. Maybe it looks kind of like a toonie, but it's not gonna quite work.
Well, and the the ironic thing there. So you touch on something that is fundamental to currency. With banknotes are very different. There's no question about that. The number of different currencies that are out there, the ability for different colors and so on, the chance of one country having similar banknotes to another, very, very, very small. But when it comes to coin, and this is something that we run across when we process for transit organizations, and when we do actually process foreign currency for banks. That is the fact that there are so many coins of the same size, weight, and dimension
Right.
as Canadian coins that stuff gets mixed up all the time.
Right.
And it gets mixed up to the point that we're talking about. You know, we process a ton a year, an actual ton of foreign currency for the TTC. And, you know, you think about...
So people are putting a dime in and saying it's a token? Is that or whatever
it's even more abstract than that. And it's, you know, quite frankly, I don't think there's any intention to fool the system. But I could pull out a dozen different coins that are the same size as a quarter. And I could probably pull out a dozen or more different coins that are the same size as a dime.
Right.
And so they simply get replaced. You may have gone into a Tim Hortons, paid for your coffee in cash, and walked away with change from another country.
With like a euro or something, yeah.
Or
whatever, yeah.
Or a Chinese yuan.
Peso, or yuan, yeah, whatever.
I mean, they've got one coin in particular that is exactly the same size.
Right.
There's an old Italian lira that's the same size as a quarter, and the lira is, I mean, it's been gone for 20 years. Right.
So it's unless you can use it to buy something else, it becomes worthless. Or maybe a keepsake. Maybe it's funny though. You mentioned the currencies. You might know this because you're in the business. I saw an article. I think it was New Zealand or another country. Literally, their $20 bill designed by the same person that designed the Canadian 20, and it looks like, aside from like the Queen's face maybe spun the other way or something, it was like it's like an exact replica of the Canadian 20.
It is. So, it is very, very similar.
Is it New Zealand? Similar. Was that the one?
New Zealand. It's New Zealand. It's very similar in color as well.
It's like the exact same color. I don't know about size, but like the see-through, like everything, the whole, I think I just froze there for a second, but yeah, the whole kind of everything. Yeah. It looked like it was the same bill, but it
actually is smaller,
slightly shorter or something. Right. Yeah. But I mean, arguably if you saw them as as an average person, you're just going to be like, oh, that's, if you don't really look too closely at it, right. You're going to think there it is, right?
Well, I mean, in that particular instance, I'll tell you the difference in the size is more than enough. You would pick that up and you'd know right away it is not the same.
Right. Okay. So
it would be similar to somebody handing you a dime when you asked for a quarter.
So it's significantly smaller. Okay.
It's significantly
so
different.
But the way I saw, the dimensions weren't so clear cut, but like sitting side by side, they looked identical on
they overlaid
the article or whatever, right? Yeah. So interesting.
So going back to how we do what we do, because there's so many different currencies out there. So there's 190 plus different currencies. Out of those 190 different currencies, I think on average the lowest number of denominations is probably 5.
Okay.
And some currencies have 10.
So you got 1,000 plus different bills or denominations. Coins.
Just talking about coins right now. But then there's also the aspect that we don't recognize here in Canada, but there are many countries out there that have changed their currency over time. So you've mentioned pesos a few times. So the current Mexican peso ranges from I think it's a 1 cent up to a 20 peso coin. So
Okay.
There's a massive spread of coins. There's actually even a 50. They used to have coins that went up to 500.
Right.
So they basically lopped a zero off the back end. And those old coins are now worthless.
Okay.
So the reason I mention that though is the fact that there are in different countries around the world, they've changed their coin layout year over year, and just over time.
Right.
And that just adds to the number of different coins that are out there. So, you know, bottom line is, if there was a machine, one, I'd need a warehouse to put it in. Two, I would need a generator out back to power it. And three, I would need to be Bill Gates to afford it.
Okay.
So the only alternative is people. And, you know, the human brain is capable of a lot of things. And so one thing that we can do is we can distinguish between these coins ourselves.
That's interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna go sort of little pushback, not to the machine, to make that machine though, because one of the things we're doing right now, we just launched our tech incubator. You know, we bring companies through sort of a process to raise capital, but we've created a tech incubator where we're looking at things like artificial intelligence, you know, machine learning, things of that nature. I would think, wouldn't you be able to take sort of the traditional technology that can decipher between the 5 denominations of, let's say, Canadian coin, and start to have it understand the differences? Or are they so similar in texture, size, weight, even image, like that you wouldn't be able to somehow create something that could? I know this is probably not where you wanted this to go, but yep. I'm wondering, like, have you guys sort of thought that sort of through a little bit? Is that a possibility, or it's not worth it, or like maybe I'm going down the wrong rabbit hole here? I don't know, but what are the thoughts on that? I mean, obviously, I said, like, we're both aware that machine, I forget what it was called, was in Loblaws or
yep.
you know, No Frills 20 years ago, right? Or
yep.
15 years ago. You know, couldn't it have advanced to allow for it to be smaller, more compact, and then maybe to decipher or distinguish between, you know, maybe not all 1,000+ variations, but, you know, the major sort of variations? Or is that not something worth sort of pursuing?
Well, there are machines out there that are able to distinguish between the coins.
Okay.
The challenge is, what do you physically do when you've got hundreds of different coins? You need to be able to send them somewhere.
Okay.
And so if the machine is just simply counting up the number of different denominations by different currency and then giving you a total, you've still got to be able to separate the physical coins themselves.
Right. Okay.
It's not just calculating what the values are.
Right. So it wouldn't sort of drop them in different buckets, kind of thing.
No, and again, when you think about, I mean, you know, I'm just if I think back here, I've got 40. I think right now on the sorting table, we're separating 40 different currencies, and that's just separating by currency. That's not separating by denomination within that currency.
Right.
So, you know, we've got 40 different buckets.
Right.
On the go in front of us.
And then each of those buckets divides into potentially as little as 5, as many as 10.
10 or 12,
yeah,
right?
10 or 12. Okay.
So to be able to have a machine to separate, you know, 40, let's just say 40 times 5, that's 200. Now you've got 200 different receptacles.
Yeah.
At what point do you stop?
Let me ask you a question. What if we could build something like that? Would that be of value?
I don't know that I could afford it.
Well, what if it made, I mean, obviously I'm costs aside, like if it made sense, would that be something that would save a lot of time, effort, and energy from a manual perspective?
Well, okay, so I started GCS with two objectives.
Right.
Objective number 1 was to help charities.
Yeah.
Objective number 2, put people to work.
Okay.
That is our fundamental.
So a machine doing it all would eliminate the objective number 2.
Right. And I know that there is a machine out there that would separate a single currency at a time.
Right.
And when you know, I was actually speaking at a conference in Italy last year, And I was describing what it is that we do. And this company who, I mean, they make massive machines that are able to deal with single currencies very, very quickly. He stood up and he said, I got a machine that can do that for you. And then so I talked to him afterwards. And basically what it means is running everything through this machine, pass by pass by pass, different currencies. And it would actually take more time to have this machine do it, because after each pass, I then have to go empty that machine and keep that currency separated and keep track of how much there is, and then run through the next pass of a different currency. And it literally would take longer than doing it by hand. Interesting. While I don't want to create more labor that way, like I said, the number 2 objective of my company is putting people to work.
Okay, and where are you guys located? Just refresh.
You're in literally right across the road from the Toronto airport.
Oh, sure, out Mississauga area.
Actually, on the Toronto side. But,
Toronto side. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So you're in the GTA. I assumed you were in the GTA. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we kind of went down the rabbit hole. My apologies.
Yep. No.
I don't know. I just asked questions because I'm interested. This is I figure, what are people thinking out there? They're probably thinking what I'm thinking. So I guess I'll ask one more question in that line or in that vein. Like, so this is sort of to do with the cost side of, you mentioned that, for example, at the beginning you said someone spent $40K to raise $25K. It was somewhat successful because there was a lot of other things that obviously came out of that program. But obviously, it from a pure donation standpoint, it didn't make money. How are you able to reduce those costs so significantly to make it viable for a charity? So if I will just use the example, March of Dimes comes to you and says, hey, we love this concept. We want, we've got people that want to support us. We want them to be able to drop off or donate their coins at, these 50 locations, whatever the number is. Or 10 or 5 locations, I don't know the numbers. How are you logistically and from a staff perspective and the manual sorting, how are you able to make that a viable transaction when it seemingly wasn't viable when they did it themselves? Like, what is don't give us your secret sauce, but how do you guys, what are some of the things that you guys have been able to do to kind of alleviate that? And I guess the better question is, if I'm March of Dimes, if I come to you, do you have a sort of a proposal that you say to them, hey, we're going to be able to get you 80% of your money back, or 20% of the return, will come back to you as profit, or whatever you want to call it, as cash donation to you? How does that all work for you guys?
Yeah. So the way that I've structured what we do is, first off, there's no charge to the charity. So in this case of this penny drive, had we been involved, one, we would have been going around periodically, emptying whatever containers they're using to collect these things, and we'd be processing it over time, right? It wouldn't just be a one-shot thing. Now pennies, that's a very different thing, right? If it's all pennies, then yes, we've got machines that will count coins, right? Okay. So after we've got the different currencies that are separated, then we use machines to do the actual counting, right? So in the case of the penny drive, we use machines. So first off, we've invested in that. So our ability to be able to handle $25,000 in pennies is going to be a heck of a lot easier than you sitting in your office at your desk trying to roll pennies 50 at a time, right?
Right. I'm also thinking like McDonald's. When you drive by, they've got the little, is it the, Ronald McDonald Charity House or whatever. Probably just
Tim's has the same thing.
It where you throw your coins in. Yep. So do you guys work with them? Have you started to?
We work with Tim's.
Okay.
So we handle all of their foreign currency. They're actually big enough themselves, the charitable side of it. They're big enough. They've got their own coin processing center.
Okay.
So they handle the Canadian stuff. We get everything else.
Okay. Interesting.
So, which is fantastic, because what that means is all of that extra stuff, which in normal circumstances, a charity would just put it aside and do nothing with it.
Really?
All of that extra foreign currency now enables additional kids to go to camp.
Funding, right? Perfect.
Right.
So you don't charge the charity anything. They're collecting it. So now, yeah, cost wise, like how do you sort of factor that all in?
So what we do is we do keep a percentage of what we get for the currency that's collected.
Okay.
But what that means is, like I said, there's no cost to the charity. It's a one-way stream of funds from me to them. So, any charity, any organization wanting to do this does not need to go and get board approval to spend money to set this up. Right? They don't need to get, they don't need to do a cost analysis to figure out what it's going to cost us to manage a program like this, or how much GCS is going to charge, because our fees are based on the program itself.
Right.
If it succeeds, we both succeed. The charity raises money that they otherwise would never have seen, because who's collecting foreign currency today? The answer is very, very, very few people. And we get to put people to work, which is fantastic, especially right now in this situation.
Yeah.
But the risk, the cost risk, ends up being with me. Right. So if the charity makes the attempt and finds that they collect nothing, they don't have a bill to deal with no results.
Right.
So if they go ahead and do this, they put some posts on social media, they engage the local businesses, they've got a little bit of manpower involved, and possibly if they're paying somebody for social media, or if they decide to put some paid ads out there, right, there's a little cost that way. But bottom line is, there has to be effort on their part to make a program work.
To make it work.
Any program.
Yeah. And I mean, they're going to benefit from that, just in awareness of their charity, their programs, what they do. So, I mean, maybe they don't get the huge donations, but they get, they can definitely build awareness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what nobody realizes is that there is a massive amount of foreign currency out there. There really is. There's somewhere in the ballpark of about $2 billion sitting in Canadian homes.
I was gonna say, I think I've got a bunch of I think I've got Cuban. Are they pesos?
Pesos, yeah.
Pesos, right? Yeah. That's why I keep saying peso. I've been to Mexico and Cuba my past 2 trips, so we've used the peso. But they have the Cuban convertible, I think, as well. I think
the convertible.
Look in here somewhere.
Yeah,
I've got a whole jar of them somewhere. Anyways, they're back there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is the point, right?
Yeah.
We've all got some of that because Canadians travel. We do.
Yeah.
We like to get out there. We see different countries, and even U.S. coin, right? I mean, you walk into a Tim Hortons or a Starbucks and you got a pocket full of U.S. quarters. You can buy your coffee, but you're leaving the exchange value on
40
the table.
40 cents on the dollar or whatever, right? Or whatever it is. Yeah.
So with us, once we have those American coins in our hands, we take them back to the U.S. We get them back to the U.S. and we get the value.
Right.
The value that they actually have.
Right. Okay. So that's
It does make
so a quarter's worth 50 cents, right? or whatever. Not that extreme, but exactly. It's you could probably buy your whole coffee with an American quarter. So I'm joking. Yeah. I'm Canadian. I get it. Our currency is pennies on the dollar. That's interesting. Okay, so you guys, so are you guys for profit, not for profit?
No, we are a for-profit corporation.
Okay. And how many people do you employ right now? How many staff do you have?
You're looking at them.
Okay. So are you just growing? Like, how long have you guys been?
No. We've been around for 5.5 years.
Okay.
And in March, I had 3 full-time staff and 4
Okay.
part-time staff.
Oh, okay. So
Um,
COVID's been a huge sort of, or
well,
what drove that? That's not to
the
kind of go into
our
dirty
our
laundry, but
biggest our biggest clients are airlines and airports.
right, because if no
So,
one's flying, if no one's at the airport, that's why you're out by the airport, I would assume too, right? Right by Pearson
well,
there.
it worked out. It was convenient.
Right.
It was circumstance put us here, but I mean the location works for us for sure. I mean, the flip side of the COVID situation is, granted, the airlines and the airports, they're working at a very reduced capacity.
Skeleton, yeah.
But what that also means is that all this foreign currency is sitting in your homes doing nothing.
Right.
And, at the end of the day, I would hazard that should you go back to Mexico in the near future, maybe if you've got some banknotes, maybe you're going to remember to take those with you. Maybe you're going to remember to take those with you, but you are not going to remember to take the coin,
Yeah, probably not.
right?
I think I have a couple in my backpack still, actually, too, sitting in the little coin pocket. I actually looked at the other day. Yeah, no, I was gonna say that, like, U.S. bills. I usually, if we go down, I mean, we haven't been down. We go down sometimes to like football games and stuff like that, Bills games. But if we bring back 20s or whatever, we'll put them aside, knowing that kind of keep them for the next time you go down, right? But yeah, if I had a quarter, I'd probably just throw it in with quarters and spend it as a Canadian quarter.
Yep.
I'm the guilty one who just is a quarter, whatever. Right?
Yep. No, absolutely.
Call it
Absolutely.
a quarter, right? So
yeah. But when it comes to traveling, though, I mean, everybody has got so much that they're thinking about.
Right.
Worrying about a few coins or a few cents or a few dollars worth of coins is not on their radar when you're worried about getting to the airport on time and what time do I got to get to the airport and all the other aspects of traveling. That's the last thing you're worried about.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna try. I just thought of this right off the top of my head. Are you up for trying something new?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we have an audience. I'm on this every day, talking to different people. Can we create some sort of joint global coin solutions backers? Hey, if you've got coins in your house, go to your local business. Do they have a global coin solution, sticker on their window, or can we create something where we keep talking to people to go to their local business? Is there a way that we could create like a backers GCS? I was going to use your initial GCS.
Yep.
We're BNI, Backers Network Inc., but whatever. BNI, GCS, some sort of coin collection, foreign currency collection program. Is that something we could, I know we're more so digital and this is more of a, physical, they'd have to go somewhere. Is there something you think we could create in that? I mean, it's very off the top of my head, so I'm throwing you kind of on the spot a little bit, but, I'm spitballing here. Are there any ideas where we could, use our sort of influence, our reach, and some of the businesses that we work with, we could say, hey, you could be a part of the program, especially if they're brick and mortar or, local, have a physical local presence. Is there something there? You tell me.
Long answer is yes.
The long answer. That was a long question, actually. Yes.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no question that that there is something that we can do. And I would encourage further discussion to work that out. But without a doubt.
Off the top of your head, just while we're on air, give me some ideas. What are your thoughts? Like, what are some things that you've done with businesses and maybe other businesses that are looking to work with you? Like, what are some of the things that you've done or how have you implemented? Like, I'm thinking at the airport, like, was there, obviously we mentioned Tim Hortons and McDonald's has the, the throw it in at the till or at the, in the drive-through, right? I picture the big box beside you there. How do other organizations kind of set something like this up typically?
Well, I mean, there's no typical. So
Okay.
the challenge that exists for me, for
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
GCS, and GCS is the acronym that we use.
You're right.
Um,
I don't use BNI, but some of our CFO and some other people, our lawyer, they all use BNI. And when I
Right.
look at it, I'm like, who's BNI? But anyways.
Yeah, I actually do have a logo created with just the initials.
Okay.
But the bottom line is that any organization can do this. So
Right.
so if there is a storefront, if somebody has a brick and mortar store and they want to support a charity,
Right.
they can just simply start doing it. And we see stuff like this happening, whether it's digital. I mean, individuals are starting GoFundMe's, businesses will do the same thing. There are businesses that are out there right now that are selling different things, and they'll say right off the top, we're going to take a portion of our proceeds and we're going to donate that to charity. That is who we are. That is what we're doing.
Right.
But with this kind of a program, if for example, if an organization was committed and already supporting a charity or a fundraising program, if they are spending their money, then what I would, the biggest recommendation that I could possibly put on the table would be some sort of a matching campaign. So if they're already donating their money, asking their customers or supporters of that charity to donate their foreign currency, then that organization could match those donations, and it encourages more donations to be made, and everybody wins.
Yeah.
The brick and mortar store or operation is seen as a hero because they're giving away their money, and they're facilitating donations from others.
Right.
So definitely could put something together like that without any trouble at all.
Okay.
We would promote it ourselves on social media. Absolutely. Anybody that wants to do that, we're going to talk about it as much as we can, as much as makes sense.
Okay.
One of the other things, now we haven't touched on my Zoom background other than the initial comments.
Yeah, that's well, you've got your logo, obviously.
Yep,
Global Coin Solutions, GCS.
So we were actually in the midst of putting together digital fundraising as COVID was hitting the world.
Okay.
So we work with another organization that is in the background, but the QR code that is on my Zoom background there is live. So if you take your phone and you enable your camera and scan it, you are going to have the option to be able to make a donation to the Durham Children's Aid Foundation. Click on that link and it'll open up a donation page.
dc.things.net.
Yep. That's the one.
Cool.
And it's that difficult.
Yeah, that was pretty easy. So that's actually very interesting, because I was going to say dumb question number 5 of this interview was going to be, what if, obviously the brick and mortar side, but the digital side, I mean, that's really cool. The QR code, like, how is that? I mean, obviously QR codes exist. How does that integrate with what you guys are doing and sort of the currency side of things?
So there's the QR code can stand on its own, right? If somebody only wants to collect digitally, no problem at all. That's, as you saw, you can do that even on a Zoom background. So as an example,
just did it. I did it in a live video. I literally just got it, pulled it up. I split second, and all phones do that now, I would assume. Or a certain year newer or whatever. I got it.
I mean, if you go back too far, the
iPhone 1 doesn't do it, probably. No, right. But we're on about the iPhone 57, so it's all good, right?
Pretty close.
Yeah.
But for example, if backers wanted to get behind a charitable endeavor, we could create a Zoom background for you that's got a QR code in it, and every single person that sees your video that video now becomes a method of donations.
Let's do it. How do we do that?
You just tell me. Done.
All right, let's
Okay.
do that. Done.
So we'll have a discussion afterwards, but absolutely, that's the kind of thing that can be done. We need to know who it is that you want to support. We'll figure this out, and I can have a QR code created in no time at all. But as it ties into the foreign currency program, it becomes an option. And, one, not everybody's carrying around money with them right now, or ever. So there's that's challenge number one. So is there money in your pocket? Challenge number two is, did you walk into that business knowing that they collect foreign currency? If the answer is no, you're not going to have any with you. So, strike two. Now, is that business now going to be able to raise any money for charity?
Right.
The answer is yes. No change, no problem. There's a QR code there. Guaranteed, even though you don't have any cash with you, you got your phone.
Right.
So your phone is there. You can make a donation. No question, no problem whatsoever. And as you saw, when you get to that mobile donation website, so it's a website, it is not an app. So there's no app to be downloaded.
Right.
It takes you to the donation website for that specific charity, and there's 4 buttons. There's three fixed dollar amounts,
and then choose your own. Yeah, was it other?
Right.
Yeah.
So you click on one of those buttons, and assuming you didn't click other, and if you do, then you put in a dollar amount.
Right.
Now it's going to ask you, do you want to use, if it's an iPhone, if you're using your iPhone with Apple Pay, you can pay through Apple Pay. So you select Apple Pay, and now you put your thumbprint on your reader, and your donation's done. If you have an Android phone and you're using Google Pay, same premise. If you don't have either, then you simply click on the credit card option, fill in your credit card information, donation made.
Wow.
So it is really straightforward and simple. It literally takes only seconds to get to the payment page. And if you're using Apple Pay or Google Pay, it only takes seconds beyond that to actually make the donation. If you need to put in your credit card, obviously it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But it does not take long. And it means that if that person is disposed to making a donation, doesn't matter whether they got cash, whether they got foreign currency, or they've got nothing, they can make a donation on the spot.
Right. Wow. So interesting. And so that's really cool. Yeah. There's lots. I'm glad to hear that you've made it this far. Hopefully those other 7 people you can get back up to when the airports start to ramp up. We're looking at, I shouldn't say this out loud, but potentially going down to Barbados at some point. So hopefully the airports are still open to allow that to happen. Although everyone seems to say, don't do it, you'll get stuck there. But my comment is, there's probably worse places to be stuck than Barbados, right?
Yeah.
As long as there's internet. I mean, technically I've been working from home for 6 months.
Right.
So what's the difference between here and a beach? A lot, but
a lot.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, as far as the ability to work, it's still there, right? As long as you're connected. So there is a lot different that rather than being, sitting here in frigid, I mean, I'm indoors now, but in Canada in the freezing cold, or in 35-degree weather, or whatever, 25-degree weather in Barbados, I think I'll take that any day. Cool. Well, Scott, I really appreciate you joining me. I know sort of juggled around here. I ended off with one last question. Typically, we've kind of gone this has been a great interview because it's gone a totally different direction than what most of the talks are about. They're usually about sort of the background and where sort of the person's come from, because a lot of people are, and maybe we do round 2 of this and kind of get into your background and where that come. Or do you want to do a quick, you want to do a quick Cole's notes on your trajectory of how you got to GCS?
Oh,
Before we end it off?
Yeah, it might not be quick.
Well, give us the Cole's notes. Give us the Cole's note. Where did you go to school? Where did you go to high school?
Well, that's where I stopped. I finished grade 13 in Brampton. I went to Chinguacousy Secondary.
Perfect. Okay. And then what did you get into?
Got married right away.
Wow. Okay.
Started working right away. I spent 8.5 years working for the brick warehouse.
Okay.
Very, very different from where I am here.
Yeah.
I went from there to IBM and Lenovo.
Okay.
And did virtually everything inside of those companies that exist, sort of making computers.
Okay.
And then after leaving Lenovo, and they went through a lot of changes.
Right.
I worked for a couple of small businesses. I spent a little bit of time working.
So were you more on the tech side, like IT tech kind of support?
No, sales, marketing, finance.
Okay.
Yeah, the rest
the
of
other
the
side, the business development side. Yeah.
Yeah. Having said that, I did do a lot of IT stuff over the years too, but not by choice. I did spend a little bit of time at a company. You wouldn't recognize the name. G&D is their initials. GCK and Devrient is the name of the company. But if you pull out your wallet and look at the back of your credit cards,
okay,
they made your credit card. They made your driver's license. They made your.
Where do you see? Is it the little looks like a lock, like a G and a D?
You got it.
You got it. Interesting. Yeah.
And the ironic thing is,
I can block all the details out of this. Let's see if I can show people on there what you're referring to.
That's them.
Sort of up there. The little looks like a little lock almost there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what I was doing with them is the exact opposite of what I'm doing now. What I was trying to move.
Taking currency?
No, I was trying to move payments to digital.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
From cash.
Right. Okay.
And then I actually it's a more common story these days, but 7 years ago, I think it was 7 years ago, I applied to a position on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And it was to a company based in the UK, and they were involved with something similar to what I do now,
right?
But different.
Right.
And they also had different business lines in the UK. They ended up shutting their doors, and
you saw the opportunity, kind of.
Well, there was two things I was looking at. One is the charities and the organizations that I was dealing with at the time. They would have no outlet to deal with this anymore.
Right.
And at the time, it would have meant a drop of roughly $1 million in charitable funding on an annual basis.
Wow.
But it was also, for me personally, who wants to go back out on the job market at any point in your life?
Oh yeah.
Right. So I simply looked at it and said, okay, well, I need to do something. The people that worked for me needed to do something. We were very specialized in what we do, and there's zero risk in starting up on our own. So that's what we did.
Awesome.
So
and so 7 years later, or 5.5 years later, it's.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've tripled the amount of business we were doing on an annual basis.
Right.
We've handled over $13 million in that time, which equates to over 100,000 kilos of money, of cash. My goal is to get through this and get some charities, more traditional kind of charities on the ground in Canada and in the US and beyond, get them collecting foreign currency and making it work for them. Right. And so going back to, the two simple principles that I started with, helping charities and putting people to work. Right. The more charities I can help, the more people I need.
Right. Yeah.
So,
It's interesting. There's two quick comments. I was watching, so there's a whole scandal going on Instagram, whatever. A gentleman, I don't want to say his name because I don't really wish ill will on people. It's unfortunately he lied about a lot of stuff, but one of the jokes is, why does he always have cash lying around? He's got like stacks of cash, right? It's like the joke is like only, well, they talk about rich people don't have cash lying around, and
Right.
only drug dealers have stacks of cash lying around. But
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. But I obviously it was sort of a joke. The other thing that I thought was really interesting is UK. I would assume in the EU, like obviously you've got however many countries are in Europe, all very close together with all different currencies. I would assume this would be a huge kind of boom there because you've got people in. I mean, I'll use Luxembourg. It's the size of Scarborough.
Yeah.
With their own currency, and right next to four other countries with different versions of the franc. Right, you've got the Luxembourg franc and the Dutch franc and the French franc and the Frankenberry, right, the little pink cereal. But right, that would be. So, are you able to go over there and maybe set up this there? Like, is that sort of the thought process? Like Canada, US, and Mexico, and Caribbean for Canadians, there's only so much sort of border crossing and currency use on a day-to-day basis. Whereas a lot of those places, especially, well, I guess the EU now took it all away with the euro, but as they all kind of split apart again, is that going to be something where you look at that maybe having a European office or?
Well, short answer is no.
Okay, that was a really long question, but I think
That's okay.
Yeah, sorry to drag it on, but I was just thinking, like UK, if the company you were starting with was there's definitely pre-EU. I guess now I'm rethinking my question. With the EU, they eliminated all of that, supposedly.
Well, there's only 19 countries on the euro.
Okay.
So there is still a lot of countries that don't use it. But to answer your question, the center of the foreign currency fundraising space is actually in the UK and Europe.
Right. Okay.
So there are a lot of organizations over there that process foreign currency.
Okay.
They do it in a slightly different way than I do.
So I'm not crazy for thinking that's the place to be. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
But the flip side would actually be true. If they were looking at expanding, they'd come here.
Okay.
Because there is nobody else that is doing this, and it's just not being done anywhere near
North America.
Yeah, it's not something that we're so far from that space being saturated with me
Right.
being the only one doing it and
Right.
so few charities doing it. But where it gets really interesting is the fact that this type of fundraising actually works in Australia and New Zealand.
Okay.
They've been doing it for years, decades even, and they've been doing it consistently and a lot and raising a lot of money, and the population there actually understands it and they make it work. Whereas here, it's never
been a thing.
It's never been a thing. It's never taken off. And at the end of the day, there's and I'm not looking for competition. But there's only so much that
Right.
one person's able to do.
Right.
And without other charities getting on board and really promoting this, so that other charities are able to see it, it does make it very difficult for a charity to start it up, because they're saying, am I the only one doing this? And if
Right.
so, why is that?
Why is that? Yeah. So just out of curiosity, one last stat, if you have it, give me like numbers. Like what would be how you said it's shocking how much currency is out there. Like in North America, what would you say the foreign currency is in Canada and the US, let's say, or just Canada even?
Yep.
Do you have those kind of stats?
Yep, absolutely. So the number I've got, my calculations put it between $2 and $3 billion
in Canada.
In Canada.
Of foreign currency.
Of foreign currency.
That could be used to donate to these charities.
Absolutely.
So you're basically telling these charities there's a potential $2 billion.
Yep.
Perfect. We'll end on that. But I have one last question that I ask everyone. One word, one piece of advice. If you could go talk to a young Scott Hutchings, what would that one word or piece of advice be?
Oh.
Not to throw you on the spot. I literally have thrown you on the spot 10 times today, but you've answered them all. That's yeah.
You know what? I'm a big fan of Richard Branson.
Okay.
And one of his most famous phrases, yes. The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. Okay. The long answer is yes. I heard you say that earlier. Yeah.
Yep.
The long answer is yes.
We'll figure it out. Whatever it may be, throw the challenge at me. The answer is yes. We'll figure it out.
Okay, I like it. Yeah. That's positivity right there at its finest. Awesome. Well, Scott, thank you very much for joining me here. And yeah, we should definitely connect and talk about the answer is yes about some of the things that we talked about and see if we can figure something out to get all these people. So thanks again. I appreciate it. Everyone else, there's the logo there, or sorry, not the logo, the QR code. So if you're watching this on your phone, take out the camera. You can donate to the Durham Children's Aid Foundation. I think the denominations that looked at were like 5, 10, 20 or other, something along those lines.
Something like that.
So definitely check it out. If you're a charity and you're watching this, talk to Scott. Reach out to the GCS, Global Coin Solutions. They can help you out, and we'll try and figure something out as well. So, absolutely. Scott, thank you again for joining me. Everyone else, powered by backers, I will see you guys again.
OMG, baby, tell them.